Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan, and today I've got with me Jeremy Simpson. He's joining us from the Dallas area. And Jeremy and I met, I want to say, Jeremy, I think it was a year or so ago through a mentor that we both know, actually a good friend of Jeremy's and becoming a friend of mine. And I've really just appreciated Jeremy's contributions and the things that he's done, and wanted to take a few moments today and chat with him about his agency, have him share some things that he's doing. So, Jeremy, thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm really excited for the conversation. For those of you that maybe aren't familiar with you and PNC, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve through PNC?
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. PNCNow stands for Potential New Clients Now. It originally was born out of the COVID era. My wife owns the Woodlands law firm in the Woodlands, Texas, and I, COVID was a tough period for a lot of small businesses. And at the time, my wife's law firm was just that. It was a small business. So she was struggling with new clients, and I was working a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday gig in the business world, corporate world. And I told her, I said, look, I think I can help you with this, and knowing Billy Sticker, and, he's helped kind of guide us along the way when I first started, gave me a lot of tips and things. So I started helping her with her marketing and her social media and getting her name out there and Google and just a lot of different things. And it was working. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I can do this. This is really good. So after a year or so, a couple of years of doing that, was like, look, Billy said, Jeremy, you should do that for other attorneys because
Absolutely.
there's value there. You're helping your own wife's law firm grow. You can do that with other firms and turn it into a business just like I've done with chiropractors. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go for it. And with a guy like Billy Sticker behind you saying, hey, if you need some help, let me know. It's invaluable. That friendship and that mentorship is invaluable. So that's what we did. I started PNCNow. We facilitate digital marketing for law firms and attorneys, large and small. And it's been good. We're just trying to grow and help more clients. Our whole goal is to connect attorneys with clients that need their services. So that's our whole goal, and that's what we do.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. And you're right. You couldn't have a better mentor behind you than Billy. He's amazing. And I know I've worked with him for the last year, too, before I founded Whitebeard Strategies. And just his abundance mentality, the experience that he has is
Yeah.
super, super valuable. So you've got a great mentor there to help out as well. Talk to me a little bit about that transition. I know, you mentioned obviously when you started doing this for your wife, you were in the 9 to 5 world, and that, what was it that sparked that curiosity to go, I can do this. I can help you grow this business. What caused that spark, if I can ask? Was it just, COVID and hey, you probably had some more time too, or was there an underlying background? I guess I'm thinking, how did you make that transition into digital marketing?
Sure. So I've always been an entrepreneurial mindset. Like I've always had that mindset, and I've always wanted to have my own business. And I felt like in the corporate world, I thrived and made jumps and thrived. And my wife's been trying to get me to quit that just because of the way that they're run. You're just a number. She's told me lots of times,
Absolutely.
if you quit or died tomorrow, God forbid, she said they would just hire someone else to sit in your seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the time away from family. So for me, it was about creating something that I can have more time with my family, more family work-life balance is what I was looking for. And to be able to own something that's mine, that I can start a legacy for my family and something I can pass on to my daughter. And, this whole digital realm, and I've always been good with computers and getting, understanding how the internet works and that whole realm of the digital technology. I'm X-Gen, but I'm in that generation that grew up with computers. Like, computers came around right when I was in high school or middle school and high school, and kind of took off. And I've just always enjoyed it, building my own computers and doing all that kind of stuff. So AI is the new thing right now, and what you're doing is fantastic. And I'm loving and learning that kind of stuff and learning what it can do and the capabilities. So I've always been kind of enthralled with that. And then the idea of starting my own business and doing those kind of things that I enjoy and helping people like my wife who own law firms who are trying to get more clients, helping them get those clients and build something of them for themselves. It's kind of win-win, it's,
Absolutely.
and the 9 to 5 and driving, being able to work remote or work from anywhere with my family that's what we're trying to do. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. What immense and incredible goals across the board. I love that.
yeah,
Well, as you know, I'm a huge fan of AI. And before we're done, I want to talk a little bit about that because you have taught me some great things there too, and been such a great contributor in the group that I run. And that I so appreciate that. But talk to me a little bit about the services that you provide to attorneys. So, from my perspective, that's not a niche that I serve and understand. How do you help them use digital marketing? And I'm not asking you to share your secrets, but in a general capacity, what are you doing to help these attorneys be understood and be seen in their communities so that people are reaching out to them? Is that something you can share with us?
sure. Yeah, we'll go into high level kind of what we
That'd be
do. So
great.
yeah, so for attorneys, you won't find attorneys. You won't get a lot of success. You'll get some on Facebook, but a lot of people, that's more of a social network. A lot of people aren't looking for an attorney on Facebook, right? They're there for social reasons and for fun and
Exactly.
friends. And so most people who look for an attorney are looking on a internet search engine like Google search, and majority of it's Google search. And I tell attorneys when I talk to them, if you are on page 2 of Google search, no one's
Mm,
calling you.
so
it's
true.
it doesn't exist. Page 2 doesn't
Yeah.
exist. And I always ask people, when was the last time you went to page 2 on Google when you search for something? And they can't remember. I said, because you don't. If you're not
Yeah.
showing up, I tell them if they're not showing up on first 1 to 3, really,
Yeah.
then they're not being found and they're not being contacted. And then it depends on too what kind of attorney they are, what kind of niche they're in. If you know uh, personal injury, that whole realm is for sharks. The cost per lead for that is way up there. And I had one guy want to switch his practice to from what he was doing, lean towards more towards um, personal injury. And I told him, I said, well, we can do that, but I just want to let you know that you're going into the world of sharks, and you're going to have to pay per lead. Your cost per lead is going to jump. We can do it, and you'll get leads, but you just have to be willing to make that initial investment until you see that return of that first, at least one or
Hmm.
two personal injury cases, because they pay big, and attorneys know that, and the bigger firms will pay for those leads. So a lot of what we do is on Google search and in creating a pay-per-click stuff, but also making sure that they're showing up on with their SEO and get that nailed down.
Hmm.
And I find too that a lot of attorneys um, and law firms, especially the ones who are just starting out, their websites, excuse me, are kind of antiquated. So they're generally a little older. I'll do audits of their website, and I'm telling them, look, you got to have a phone number people can click on. I had a couple that recently that their site was not even mobile friendly, and I was like,
Hmm.
wow. And I explained to them that 90% of searches are on mobile phones these days. Most people are walking around looking at, you know, there's still users who sit in front of a desktop and do searches, but majority of the time when they think of something, they pick up their phone and they go look for it right there. And if you're not showing up on Google Maps and a Google Map search and Google search engine first page top 3, you're missing opportunities for clients.
No, so true. So very true. And it's interesting you mentioned that with attorneys. Again, I don't know a lot about that segment, but it's interesting. My wife and I, we just moved from Michigan down to Alabama, and in the process of driving back and forth, I noticed that over one 3-state period, or Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama, one attorney, we counted over 48 billboards just on one highway that we're following. And we were talking about it because I'm like, man, the cost to put 48 billboards out
Oh,
there is, and then that's just on one highway. I've seen more since I got down here. It's immense. And yet, obviously, there's value in it to them because they're getting enough leads coming through. And so I certainly can see exactly what you're saying, how important that is to understand what that lead cost is. I know with a lot of businesses that we find they don't necessarily have a good understanding of what the value of a client is when they come on board. I'm assuming in the legal profession that might be just a bit easier because they tend to have either a specialty or whatever they're focusing on, and they know that. What have you found as it comes to working with attorneys and their ability to say, "Hey, I know a new client's going to be worth X number of $1,000 to me on average, and therefore I can spend so much per lead." Is that a comprehension they have, or is that an education that you need to help them?
Um, yeah, some understand that and some don't. What we find is understanding what that is, and it depends on their niche, right? If you
Hmm.
have someone who's in estate planning, it's going to be a set value. Most of the attorneys are going to want to have a retainer, a certain value, so that they can bill against that. And depending on what their niche is, that customer value is going to be different, right? Some of them understand that, some of them don't. But making sure that we talk about that when we're engaged in what our plan is for their marketing is important, because understanding what they're going to spend per lead and what that lead's value is when they close it helps them understand that, okay, I'm going to spend money with Jeremy and PNCNow, but it won't matter because they're going to give me 3 or 4 times the business that I'm paying them to advertise. Once you get them to see that, it clicks. Some of them, it's difficult if they're just starting out, right? You talk to them about, hey, you're going to need between $500 to $1,000 a month budget, maybe more. If you're
Hmm.
going after personal injury, it's going to go way more than that.
Oh, I bet.
And it's sticker shock for them, especially younger attorneys. Younger attorneys just starting out or just starting like a personal practice or starting out smaller. The larger firms, that a lot of times they don't flinch at that. So.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. As you take a look at that, and obviously you mentioned Google Ads and things like that being so important to them. Talk to me about the importance of reviews as it comes to attorneys. Is that something that's as relevant in the legal space as it is, say, as an example, in the home services space?
Yeah, it's very relevant. In fact, some of the clients that I've talked to, and some of the things I try to do when they sign on is immediately go straight after all, because I have clients. I have had clients that have had 5 Google reviews. Well, they'll have only 5. Well, that plays into the algorithm for where you rank. So if you have a law firm that's um, has got five star reviews,
Hmm.
right? But they have 200 reviews versus 5 reviews. They're going to get put up in front of and more people because people are saying, "Hey, this company's really good. This guy's really good. This lady's really good. This law firm's fantastic." That plays into thing. Not only that, but when someone is searching for a law firm, they look at the review ratings. If you show up top 3, right, your reviews are going to have to be good.
Yeah,
The-
absolutely.
people are looking for an attorney. Generally, depending on for example, divorce attorneys. People are looking for a divorce attorney. They're in crisis,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they're looking for an attorney right now. They'll Google search divorce attorney in my area or divorce attorney in Montgomery, wherever they're at, right? And they'll look, and the first ones to show up. Now there may be 5 or 6 listed, but they're not going to go to the one with 2 stars.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're in crisis, and this affects everything about their life. They're looking for someone that's got 5 stars and a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for. So I try to implement. First thing we do is we grab all of the client lists from attorneys when they sign on, and we're like, okay, look, we need to categorize these by these clients are going to give you good reviews. Let's get system automated. Let's get a system in place that automates your review system. So you close a client or you close a deal for a client, you win a case, a big suit, whatever, right? It's settled. Immediately send that person this link,
Yes.
and it takes them straight to Google reviews. They can click 5 stars. They can put in their nice words about you. You just want a big case. They'll talk about it on there, and they'll save it. Boom, and it's there. It's in there. If you automate that process where you close a case or you win a case for a client, and automatically send them a review request. Every single time you close, you're going to get a good review. And then if you and I asked a client last year, I said, I asked her, I said, how many clients, how many cases have you had in the last year? And she didn't know off the top of her head. So she had to go back and look. And she's like, oh, like I serviced probably like 80 clients. And I go, okay, how many of those did you send a review request to? None.
I say zero.
Because
Yeah.
Zero. Her last review was like 5 years ago. So even the good reviews that she had, the last one was 5 years ago. So someone's going, whoa, this is like 2018. What? 2016. What? This was the last time anybody reviewed them. So that people look at that. I mean, I look at the reviews when I go buy some on Amazon,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I'll compare them to the same 5 items that are being sold on eBay or Amazon and see which ones have best delivery, which ones have the best customer referrals. Like, oh, there's this guy says, oh, this is great. The products that get bad, I pass on them. So it's the same in the world for service. It's the same in the service world. Those reviews really matter.
I bet. Well, and I think that's just brilliant advice. I think that, we all can learn from that. Even myself in the agency space, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, I've got a few clients I should reach out to that I know are very happy. I haven't asked them yet for that 5-star review.
Yeah.
That's so important. I know attorneys are super busy, and if some of them are listening, I know we've got some attorneys in our audience, but from those that are listening, or even any other business owner who's busy, how do you recommend that they do that type of thing, like a review? We want to automate that and make that, but obviously it's one more thing to ask the either the admin to do or somebody on the team. Is there a way that there or software, anything like that, that they can use to help automate that process so that they know that, hey, look, when we move that case status from pending to one, that automatically this email gets sent or this text gets sent or anything like that? Do you have any tools like that that you can recommend or that exist out there for the industry?
Yeah. The legal field has a lot of tools like that. A lot of the tools that that law firms use they have phone systems. There's several of them. Off the top of my head, I can't remember some of them
That's
right
okay.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a system that I put in place, the PNCNow app that uses it's automation. It creates. I set up workflows and automations so that as I receive a client from an ad or whatever we've done in the marketing world, right? Um, it automatically creates that client. And then I can also take a current list of their clients in an Excel sheet and I can import it into this app. And then anytime you can literally just grab that client, move them over to sold, and that client now it'll automatically send them a review request. In fact, you can even set it up to where a video goes with it. Hey, we really appreciate your business. We know we recently won a case for you. You can make that a general video, and then it says, "Hey, we really appreciate it. We thrive. Our business is the same as everybody else's. We thrive on reviews. We'd love to have you give us a review. A good review we would be appreciated, but a review is what we're asking for." Send that out, and it can automatically go. Now you don't have to type an email. You don't have to record anything new. It's the same one. So anytime you close a customer or you close or win a case, you just move it over to sold or completed or whatever we want to name it. We can name it whatever you want. And it automatically goes out and asks for a request.
That's a great tool, and I think one that it's so many businesses, I'm going to generalize in the overall category. I'd call that marketing automation, and I think there's so many businesses that have yet to really embrace that. That there are so many things like that, just like you said, when you know that customer is going to be happy, identify that point in the client journey when you know they're going to
Yeah.
be happy. Sometimes that's just right after they signed on to do services with you. I mean, it depends on where
Yeah.
that is, but reach out and ask them. And the one thing I found out, and if you may remember the old commercial, it's kind of funny. I learned this at a Holiday Inn Express of all places. I was staying a few years back at a Holiday Inn Express, and I got on the elevator, and I noticed they had a sign in there that basically, "We cherish your 5-star reviews," and that was kind of the
Mhm.
header. And then below it, it said, "If for any reason during your stay you don't feel you could leave us a 5-star review, please let our front desk know so that we can earn that 5-star review from you." I saw that for
Nice.
3 days going up and down the elevator. Was the stay perfect? No, it was a Holiday Inn Express. It was decent. It was fine, but it wasn't like the Ritz Carlton or the Four Seasons, but it was fine. But yet, when I checked out, the clerk asked me, "Is there any reason you wouldn't be comfortable giving us a 5-star review?" And what I thought was so unique about it is they'd kind of positioned that for me. And then
Yeah.
when I got there, I literally thought, well, it was an okay stay. I wouldn't normally leave a review positive or negative, but I did see the sign and you told me to call you if I needed anything, and I didn't call. And the clerk's now asking me, and she's being very friendly about it. I have no reason not to leave a 5-star review. And guess what? I left a 5-star review.
It almost makes you feel obligated.
Well, and again,
Like
I
there
felt
was
like
nothing
they had
negative.
provided every opportunity to earn that, and I hadn't taken every opportunity. So I did. I kind of felt like I owed it to them because they hadn't done a bad job. I
Sure.
mean, nothing had gone wrong. But I think as
Yeah.
businesses, we really miss that part about requesting the 5-star review and then letting people know that if we haven't earned that, to please let us know. Because let's face it, if we have a customer who's unhappy, we'd like them to reach out so we could try to fix that
Yeah.
and earn that ability. And if they are happy, then obviously we really want that 5-star review. So yeah,
And that's a good point.
great advice there, Jeremy. I think that's something that again, all of our listeners could really utilize and utilize
Yeah.
well.
One of the things a law firm can do too is especially a law firm that does will packages or estate planning packages or anything like that. A lot of times when that happens, they all have to meet into a conference room.
Mm,
So on the conference room table, they should have a large QR code with, if you're happy with our service, whatever, like you're talking about, and a QR code straight to their business Google review. So at the end of the will package, when the will package is signed, or when they're done signing the documents or signing for whatever contracts or whatever they're doing, they can literally say, "Hey, man, we really appreciate you guys coming in today. If you need anything, let us know. If you were happy with how everything went, we'd really love you to give us a review. Here's an easy way to do it. Just scan that QR code. It'll take you right there and won't take but a minute."
mm.
And then before they leave your office, they have a QR code they can scan and give you a good review.
That's
To cap the time for a law firm to capture review is when you finish and that customer's happy. Right then is when you want to get them engaged with a review.
And that's a brilliant advice. And, let's face it, after COVID, we all learned how to use QR codes if we hadn't before because they were on every menu and every other place we
Every
went.
restaurant, yeah.
So we
Yep.
we learned that. And Jeremy, I think that's just brilliant advice. Take the time, if I can summarize what you said, take the time to understand at what point in the process your customer is going to be happy and the happiest, and make it easy at that point for them to leave you that review because nobody likes it when there's friction. Nobody likes that. So that's really, wow, what a great idea. I
But I
love
would
that.
take it even a step farther and add with what you just said, not only what is the right timing, but how to approach when that timing hits, right? So the right timing was at checkout for the hotel to for them to ask you that question that made you think, okay, well, there was no reason for me not to give a good review. It's the same for a law firm, and when's the best time to get a review, and you have to make it easy. People's time span is short these days,
Yeah.
right? TikTok and all the reels, and if you're longer than 8 seconds in a reel, people are swiping. It's the same with their life. That's incorporated into our life. If it takes them 5-10 minutes to give you a Google review, they're not going to do it. It's got to be fast, and it's got to be really easy, and it's got to be quick so that they can get in, give you a review, get out, and go back about their life.
Oh yeah, great point, and I think so relevant because again, we all are bombarded with things, and even if it's not, I find it's not that I'm not willing to a lot of times, but if I'm walking out of a restaurant, for example, by the time I've gotten to my vehicle, either the conversation with my wife has moved on to something else, my phone rings, I get a text message, something happens, and it removes me from that experience that I just had, not necessarily in a bad way, but I'm now no longer thinking about leaving a review on the great steak I just had, or the wonderful service I just got, or if it's an attorney, the new trust they just did for me and their great communication. I'm not thinking about any of that now because my mind's moved on. So it is so
Mhm.
important to capture that when it comes up. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about the future. You and I have talked a bit about AI, and I know we both like that. From your perspective, where do you think AI fits in to the average business owner for marketing? I know as agencies, we're utilizing it to provide more value to our clients. I use that a lot in my agency. I know many others do as well. But as a business owner, as an attorney, anybody that's out there, what are your thoughts on how can they utilize AI tools to help grow their business, be more efficient, save time, whatever the case may be? Any thoughts you've got for our audience there at all, Jeremy?
Yeah, yeah. And for attorneys and the law firm world, right? They make money by the billable hour, right? So if an attorney is not working on something that's billable, um, it's non-value added to their firm, right? That's just the way it is.
Hmm.
Um, they get paid by the hour by the client. And if you work for a firm, they're likely, if they're not salary or contracting, they're working by the hour. So every hour you're not spending working on something that's billable is non-value added to the firm.
Mm.
You're losing money. That's potential money lost right there. So the necessary things you have to do to get your firm name out there, to get your name out there, to become the expert. A lot of what you talk about is becoming an expert in your field,
Yeah.
right? That's stuff that takes up an attorney's time that they can't afford to give away, right? Because every second, every hour they're working on a social media ad or a blog post or, you know, anything that they're typing or having to write, they're losing an hour of their billable time. And
Mm.
for an attorney, they just won't do it because they would rather spend the time billing an hour than an hour what they feel would be wasted. What the way that AI comes in and can change and revolutionize the way this happens, we're doing it now in my wife's firm, is her blog posts are created by ChatGPT. Now, she reviews them,
Sure.
right? She reviews them, and sometimes she'll make changes, relevant changes, because ChatGPT is not always perfect. But she hasn't spent an hour and a half writing a blog. She puts in prompts on what she wants to write about, what's relevant, this and that, and then it prints it out, and then she'll review it. And then she'll post it to her blog, and it goes to her from her blog. I have it automatically posted to her social media,
Mm-hmm.
and that has driven engagement and driven clients to her firm. And it's so simple. Chat GPT will crank out a it's just so fast and efficient. Same with social media posts, and you mentioned it a little bit. Attorneys don't have time to sit. It's either they're going to outsource it or they don't have time to sit and create a graphic
Right.
and then write out a little catchy thing. And a lot of that's just it's not going to drive, most likely not going to drive a client to click. They're not. It's not going to drive them to say yes to sign them up as an attorney.
Right.
But what that does is it makes them, like you said, an expert in their field. When
Mm-hmm.
someone's on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or any of those social platforms, and they're seeing constant information being fed from this person, and a lot of it, and this is what I told my wife. I said, we need to give away relevant information, but don't give your services away for free, but give away information that's valuable, that people see value in. They'll come back to your content and then say, this person's the expert. If you're putting it out consistently, right, like you talk about doing,
Yep.
then that now when they click on, they go to search for someone and your law firm shows up, they're like, oh, I remember this person, and they'll call your firm.
Mm. Makes perfect sense. And again, I think you're right. I think the other thing you mentioned in there that's so important that so many people fail to understand is it's not using AI to just write and publish. You need to preview it. You need to make sure it's
Yeah.
right. AI makes mistakes sometimes. And I compare it often. People are like, well, I'm not going to use it then if it made a mistake. I'm like, look, if you had an admin working for you or a member of your team, are they perfect? Are you perfect for that matter? I mean, I know I make mistakes, Jeremy, and I can go
Right.
through something and make a mistake. So it's not unreasonable that it's going to make a mistake sometimes, especially when it comes to statistics. Because, I explained this to a client yesterday. I said, why does AI hallucinate, as they call it? Why does it make mistakes? And I said, you need to understand, it's been trained on this vast amount of knowledge. It has probably the most encyclopedic knowledge possible. But have you ever found conflicting information on the internet? And they're like, well, of course, it's all over. And I said, so ChatGPT has been trained on all of it, all the
Yeah.
conflicting information. And sometimes it
All
doesn't
at
make
once.
the best judgment decision as to whether Abraham Lincoln really said this or not. I learned that very early on. I know I asked it to give me some success quotes. I wanted to create some social media posts, and I said, give me some success quotes. And I said, all right, let's pick somebody famous like, I don't remember who I picked at the time, but we'll just say it was, Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. It gave me a bunch of them. And then I asked it to give me somebody maybe from Neil Patel, and it gave me a bunch. And I asked, okay, how about Harvey McKay? And I picked a bunch of business leaders. Well, when I went through and reviewed them, I realized that about 40% of the quotes were attributed to multiple people because
Yeah.
as it scoured the internet, it's attributed these posts to multiple people. And so it doesn't necessarily know who did that any more than you or I may know, other than the research we do. So really important part, just to make sure that you review that and you do that. But I think, as you point out, very relevant in helping a law firm or any other business be seen as that expert in their field, in their niche, in their locale, you have to have content out there that people can find when they're searching. That's
Yeah, and
always
you can do
social
that
media or
without
Google or
affecting
wherever.
your billable hour. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that efficiently without affecting how much time you're spending billing. So you can still spend the same amount of time billing and earning money because that's how they make money, and still be the social create those posts, and it's so efficient, and it does it so quickly. And even though you have to review some of them, um, reviewing a document is way faster than creating a document.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. No, we I had this conversation yesterday with my wife. She runs another agency, and we were talking about it, and we both leverage AI for that. In fact, one of my favorite uses is when I need to write an email to somebody. I'm really good. By the way, full disclosure, I got diagnosed with ADD when I was 43 years old and explained a lot. But, I'm really good at outlining what I want to do, but I'm not necessarily good at taking the time to really craft a well-worded email. But with ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or any of them, I can take, here's the email Jeremy sent me. Here's what I want to say. Now, please proofread and improve it for readability and comprehension. And I'm going to get back an amazing email that I can edit in
Mhm.
seconds, as opposed to spending 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes just, roiling over what words should I use and how should I say this. So I think it really can be used effectively to help with increasing communications there as well. Again, across the board as we do that.
Yeah, and what I find too with attorneys is attorneys when they go to law school, my wife experienced this. So my wife was a when they she went to Baylor Law.
Hmm.
So they break you down and in law school and train you to write differently. So
Interesting.
the way that they break it so someone who goes in with a most, depending on what you go in, my wife went in with a business degree.
Hmm.
So she went in and she can type like 150
Oh
words
my
a minute. It's
goodness.
insane. It sounds like a machine gun going off on her.
I
It's
bet.
insane. But she explained it to me. She's like, well, they break you down and they train you to think and write differently in the
Mm,
in legal sense. So a lot of attorneys, when they come out of law school and they've been practicing law these years, sometimes writing a brief is easier than writing an email, right? Or writing a
sure.
response or something that's quick and should be easy, but they're so used. And sometimes my wife will even, um, when she's sending me an email or text, I'm like, babe, that could have been said with like two sentences. Like,
Yeah, but you can't bill as much if you say it in two sentences. Come on.
that's a good point. That's a good point. But when it comes to like what I do with automation is I create auto. You can also include chat GPT in your website chats and
Yeah.
your emails, and so that when you're having to respond to a customer, it can be auto generated via chat GPT, and then you just review it. Yep. And a lot of times it won't sound so, I don't want to say robotic because that's ironic, but it's in a lot of times attorneys write very specifically because to them every single word matters from a legal standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every I dotted, every T crossed. Well, when you're just writing an email to someone generally, right? Even if it's just responding to a client that something went well, they tend to get caught up in that, right? So having something that can be auto generated or even just write it for them that's not so lawyeristic or legalistic in the sense of writing an email or writing something generic,
Hmm.
that can be helpful to them.
Makes perfect sense, and I can definitely see where that would definitely fit in and make a difference for that audience. I never thought about that with an attorney, but you're so right that they have to be taught that every word matters, because that's what another attorney is going to pick apart if
Yep.
something goes wrong. So they've got to be super careful. But you're right. If you and I are working together on a project, I don't necessarily need to slave over every single word, as long as I can get that concept out there well. And again, I
Right.
find as a general rule, not having necessarily been a pro in my English class, that ChatGPT allows me to write a much more cohesive and understandable email in 99% of the cases. So, yeah, really good point. So that's interesting insight. I'd never thought through why that may be different in the legal profession. So being married to an attorney is super helpful there. So
Yeah.
as you take a look at your crystal ball, Jeremy, I don't know how cloudy or cracked it is. I know mine is quite cloudy and quite cracked, but as you take a look at the future and say, okay, What do I see for the future of legal marketing? Anything interesting or that relevant that you think we should discuss and share that you see on the horizon as it comes to legal marketing?
I think it depends on the state too, because I know in Texas there's a lot, and I don't know how. I haven't. In fact, I plan to dig into this a little bit too on my podcast. But the legal in Texas, excuse me, in Texas, the there's rules. The state bar has rules on how you can advertise. A
Okay,
lot of the
that makes
videos,
sense.
a lot of the videos and content um, around the legislation around what you can and can't um, put out there as an attorney. The future legislation of that is what's going to drive how we can market to audiences. We see it all the time, even right now with a lot of marketing software tools. And even my wife's, I was talking to her last week. We had to do, we had to go through this, get her certificate for her to send out text messages
Hmm.
and all that stuff. You have to sign up for that. There's legislation now. You can't send texts to people who don't want them, right? It's against, you can get in trouble. They'll ban your phone number. You'll
Right.
no longer be able to email and send. So the legislation of the future, attorneys have to pay attention and be really aware of their state laws about how they can advertise and what they can advertise to the public. Because in Texas, I know in Texas, you can get in a lot of trouble. Most of your videos are supposed to be, I don't know how many people do it. I see a lot of commercials and I'm like, how did they get that approved? Those are supposed to be pre-approved by the state bar before
Really?
they're released.
Wow.
So yeah, so I don't know how much online people are paying attention to that, but unless that changes, my wife was on top of a couple laws in Texas. One of them was in Texas, you weren't allowed. The name of your firm had to be the attorney that worked there. You couldn't have a generic name like great attorney, great
Interesting.
attorney law office, right? It had to be. That's why you see so many um, law firms with, just for example, Jack Ford, attorney at law, right? That's
Sure.
why you see them everywhere because they're required to. Well, in the Texas state legislature, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, started talking about doing away with that law. And my wife was on top of that. And so she grabbed all the names and grabbed everything for the Woodlands law firm in our area, which is a big area, and locked it in a year in advance because she
Smart.
preempted the fact that they were going to change the law, and then she would be able to change her law firm from Gwendolyn Simpson LLC attorney at law to the Woodlands law firm,
Very,
and
very smart.
locked it in. And so there's a lot of attorneys in the Woodlands area that want to be the Woodlands law firm,
But they can't be.
but she owns it.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love how she stayed on top of that and how that mindset works. It's about just being aware of what's happening and then taking
Yeah.
advantage of that as it comes up in the marketplace. So, really great, great share on that. I appreciate that. That's super insightful. Well, the name of our podcast, Jeremy, you and I talked briefly up front, as you know, is the 91 Day Success Podcast. And one of the things I love to ask all of the successful business owners that we bring on, just like yourself, is what if you had to start over and you had $1,000 to invest in your business? You didn't have to worry about your living expenses. That was good. But you had $1,000 and your goal was to generate $10,000 in revenue at the end of 3 months. What might you do over that 91-day period? And there's no right or wrong answers, but if you were doing it, or maybe you're advising somebody from church to do it or whatever, what advice would you give on what you would do to accomplish that goal? Any thoughts on that all, Jeremy?
Yeah, I would, for someone who's starting out, if you had $1,000, my advice would be do some research and find a coach. Find someone that's successfully done that and is teaching it or training people how to do it.
Hmm.
That the $1,000 invested in them as a coach will save you tens of thousands of dollars over the first year or two of operation
Mm,
in not having to learn how to do something. If they're teaching and training their system or a system, that will give you leaps and bounds above your competition who's just starting out. You're gonna start the ground. You're gonna hit the ground running versus walking, stumbling, learning how to walk. Right, step over this, speed bump. They're gonna be able to guide you to, okay, watch out for this speed bump. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to approach it. this is what's worked for me. If you copy paste this into your business, it'll work for you. Find a coach, do your research, find a coach in whatever business you're trying to start, and take that money, invest in a coach. It may not be 1,000, it may be more than 1,000, I don't know, but take that and invest in a coach, because that coach, like for example, Billy Sticker, I'm in an agency on fire, and Billy Sticker has created a multi-million-dollar agency, and the Agency on Fire program basically is the model for creating an agency. And he has saved me from so many speed bumps and
Yes.
heartache along the way that the program pays for itself. So I would say, if you're trying to start a new business, research, find that person who's done it and was successful, sold a business in that realm, and now they're teaching it or coaching on other people how to do it, and buy into that, and then sell out in it.
I think that's incredible advice, and it reminds me of something that I learned many years ago, and it was about coaching in general. And I remember I was a young man at the time and didn't think I needed any help. And a mentor of mine said, "Look, look into the sports world." And at the time it was people like Michael Jordan and things like that. And he said, "Do they have coaches?" And I'm like, "Well, of course they have coaches." And he goes, "So at the time, Michael Jordan, was probably the best basketball player in the world. Tiger Woods was one of the best golfers in the world, but they both had coaches." And his question to me was, if they're the best in the world, why do you think they have coaches? And I remember thinking to myself, wow, you're right. And you point out Billy's program, Agency on Fire, amazing program, by the way. I'm also part of that. I think your advice is so sound that it's, especially when we're starting off, if we can leverage the experience, the failures, the knowledge, the success that somebody else had that they've learned over years, and we can condense that into a coaching program that we can take and learn from, it can really expedite our growth. I've recently done that with starting Whitebeard Strategies. As you know, Jeremy, I had another agency for years and stepped away from that to start a new agency. And it's by using the things I've learned over that last 13-year period that has allowed me to grow Whitebeard Strategies as fast as I have, because I didn't make all the same mistakes that I made 13 years ago. It's huge advice. Really, really good. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, if people are listening in today and they go, "Wow, I really want to reach out." I know, like I said, we've got some attorneys in our audience here. If they're thinking, "I need to reach out and understand how Jeremy can help me do this," what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me you can go to my website and schedule an appointment, or my phone number and emails all on the website, PNCNow.com. And email address is jeremy@pncnow.com. And then you can reach out to him on my phone number directly at 713-263. We're going to have to edit that. I just forgot my own phone number.
No problem. We can edit it.
No, I can't remember it now that it's stuck in my brain.
Here, I'll get it from your website. Hang on.
Not 999.
So yeah, 713-999-6120.
60. Say that again. I'm sorry.
999-6120.
999-6120. I don't ever call myself. That's really strange.
So
I forgot.
why don't you start with just or they can call me, and then I will edit it real easily.
Okay. Or they can call me at 713-999-6120.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and add that in a link down here in the show notes, as well as putting that up here on the video. But let me encourage you. I've known Jeremy now for, I want to say it's been a little bit over a year ago that we met Jeremy. I don't remember exactly, but Jeremy is a great man with great character, knows what he's doing, and is surrounded by a great group of people. So if you're an attorney looking for some marketing, let me encourage you to reach out and find out if Jeremy can maybe help you get some more leads in, because as we know, every business relies on those new opportunities coming in. So Jeremy, thank you again for your time today. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And I know we're going to have the opportunity, as we're recording this in about 2 weeks, we're both going to be at an event in Dallas and have the opportunity to actually chat in person and shoot a little video and have some fun. So again, thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you in Dallas. And with that, thank you. If you've been listening into the podcast, we so appreciate you. Remember, we cherish your likes. If you can like the podcast, give us your feedback. We'd love a 5-star review on it. And don't forget to subscribe so you find out when our new episodes get released every Friday at 10. Thanks, everybody, and make it a great day.